Some jazz today. Yes, you gon' learn, you gon' learn, you gon' learn. It was just past 1, 2, 3 man with a 4, 5 step to the door like, oh my gosh, just throw that cash in a backpack, run around the back.
Hey everybody, it's Liz from the Lemon Bowl.
Vince from Irie Kitchen.
And welcome to the Irie Lemon Podcast.
We're not going live on the podcast. All right, this is episode what?
7? 8. Episode 8. F. We're at F.
We're at F.
F could be for many things, but today it's for
friendships.
Friendships. Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, 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 ding.
So,
what's up? Talk about friendships, Liz.
All right. I felt like this would be a good topic to discuss because I think especially, I think so many different people, regardless of if you're like a creative entrepreneur, self-employed, working from home, or even a stay-at-home mom, or maybe just a young professional, regardless of what stage of life you're in, I think having a really strong circle of 5 is super important. And I get a lot of questions about friendships, which is why I thought it might be worthwhile to talk about. What about you? How do you feel about, why do you think it's important for us to dive a bit into friendships?
I think you spend a lot of time at work. You spend a lot of time with friends. And sometimes, or most of the time, friends become family.
True. You spend more time at work often than with your family.
A lot of times. Mm-hmm. And then, not saying your coworkers have to be your friends, but if you're like us and kind of create our own world,
right,
a lot of times they end up being. So it's cool. I think, again, your top 5, your circle of 5, having strong friendships, relationships are at my core.
You just made a good point. I realized we were working together because we were friends.
Yeah, I always tell people that, we're actually friends.
Right.
It's not some weird, just we should do business.
Right.
It's no, we're actually friends. And then we thought of.
So that right there is another reason why it's so important to have good friendships, because it could also lead to really fun and exciting business opportunities. And you're probably going to love your work more and love your job more if you're working with your friends.
Exactly.
All right. So I'm going to start with this part. So before we get into more on that, mm-hmm. A common question I get about friendships, which is what kind of spurred this idea, is how do I have so many friends? How do I create such a rich social life? Clearly I have a rich, I'm not a homebody. So just in that, I do have a busy mm-hmm. an active social life, but I get a lot of questions from women, especially asking how I'm able to have so many friends. And I think that there are a few simple tips I can share that it might sound silly, but you have to remember, the older you get, once you leave college, it gets harder and harder to find good friends, and especially high quality friendships.
And I think you should give people the thesis of why you're so good at it. And I'll tell them my part.
Okay.
How you got to becoming or developing, and you share what you want to share, how deep you want to get. But I think that'd be a cool insight for people too, people who can relate to that.
Okay. So I will just start off by this. It's not an accident that I have a lot of strong friendships. I've always realized that, and right or wrong, I tend to prioritize friendships pretty high in the different things that people prioritize every day. I spend a lot of time fostering friendships. Mm-hmm. So it's one thing, you might meet someone, whether it's at the gym, at work, at school, you might be in the neighborhood with them. Nowadays online, people make friends on Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. If you're not cultivating and fostering and nourishing those friendships, mm-hmm. They're not going to just show up at your door begging to hang out. It takes a lot of work. And I honestly do, I feel like it's so valuable that I'm willing and I love spending the time fostering actually true, authentic connections with other people. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to make that first part clear.
So I have a question. What if someone has a hard time making friends?
Sure. So
their whole life, how did from they're young to they're old? What's kind of advice is for you? Do you relate to that?
Yeah, I will say, yeah. I mean, I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. I was the overweight Middle Eastern Jewish girl in a very like white athletic town of smart, rich white kids.
Yeah.
So I was very left out.
Mm-hmm.
And if you weren't like pretty and thin and, you know, blonde, it seemed that you didn't have friends.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. What I found, and I now can look back and define it a bit better, is I just basically was Liz to the max, which is like my new mantra. As I just had my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I was just decided to be me. And what ended up happening is because I tend to be a bit charismatic and funny, and I like to organize like gatherings, like people started to flock to me because I was, instead of trying to like be like everyone else who I wasn't, I've never been like everybody else.
Yeah.
I'm weird. Like I love to throw parties. I'm loud. I'm very sarcastic. So instead of trying to conform to fit in, I just decided to just, like, when I was growing up, we were like eating hummus and stuff at home, and no one knew what hummus was. Like, we were weird in every way.
Oh yeah, I relate to that. Big.
Right. You showing up to school with your goat
curry goat.
Right.
And, like, my house smelled like spices.
Right.
Funny, like they make jokes. Your parents never home, but there's always food, and like he's like, oh yeah, we got to eat.
Right.
But it's like I relate to that a lot too. I mean, I never. So on the other
yeah,
spectrum,
let's hear your side. This is interesting.
I never in my life had to fight for friends.
Yeah.
Like, and like I don't. When I think about it as a kid, I don't know if I just didn't care so much that's why people want to be friends with me.
I bet that's a huge part of it.
Like, I don't remember ever walking into school like, oh, I need to have friends. Like, or like,
yeah.
Like, I would literally, even on purpose too, I would sit by myself at a lunch table, and then people would sit with me.
That's cool.
Like, I never had to like go fit into a lunch table.
Yeah, totally.
Like, a matter of fact, I'm probably like eating by myself, to be honest. Like, I wasn't even thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be by myself every season by myself. It was like, nah, it's kind of like,
right.
And I'm eating curry goat. Like, they already made fun of me. Like,
right.
People were like, ooh, what are you eating anyway? Right?
So you've never struggled to have friends?
No, I never did.
Okay.
Sorry, sis. I have a twin sister,
yeah.
But it seemed like for her is that, and I feel like girls are just.
I feel like it might
when they're young,
be more important for girls.
Yeah,
it's just my assumption.
Girls can be mean when they're young.
Like, my husband could care less if he has a bunch of friends.
Right. So I think for like women, a lot of times too, it's different, and girls can be mean, especially at a young age.
Yeah, mean girls. That's a whole.
Like that's a whole thing.
That's a whole other level.
Yeah. So like
maybe that'll be him.
I do understand that too. So obviously the different gender could affect a lot. But yeah, I never had to fight for friends.
Okay. So you probably don't have any tips then for someone.
Well, actually,
other than
I do.
Just be yourself. Okay.
I do, because I think like with that perspective, the friendships I do have are deeper. So I will say I have a lot of acquaintances, and I'm like charismatic too. I'll relate to that, and like I do know a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I've always been friendly. Like I was a kid, like you can play in my sandbox. Like, and I think I've lived my life with that openness, which I think I am attracted to a lot of people. For me though, I do have to clarify like who's actually my friends and who's not. And a lot of people I don't have a deeper relationship with, and we joke about this a lot too, past work. There's only a couple people in my, like probably my 5 that know me past what I do day to day. A lot of people are friends within a certain like hub, which I find interesting. But my friends who like you, like Parker, like right, these are people that like know me.
Yeah.
And we're actually friends. So I think for me, it's like I'm really big on if you're gonna have friends, and especially people for lifelong, right? I think those are the best kind of friends, like people who have 10 plus years contracts on you. Like, it does take a lot, I feel like, and it's not like a lot of work, I would say. It's just being like open-minded to the fact that like, yo, this person's gonna share a lot of things with you in your life. And like a lot of people like to keep friends in like a certain perspective of themselves. Like if you're my friend, like you know everything I'm going through. Yeah. Like totally. I don't want my friends to ever feel like they don't know me or they can never talk to me. Right? Okay. And then I spend so much time with them, they become family.
Yeah. That's good. Quality over quantity.
Yep.
So yeah, I think, and then as far as some practical tips, if you do have trouble making friends, I would say for me, like I noticed after I was laid off from a job in 2008. So then I was working from home by myself for the first time, and I'm super social and extroverted. So when you don't have the convenience of like coworkers, it can be a little bit more difficult to make friends. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners are, home-based creative entrepreneurs. So I would suggest, like for me, what really helped was going to the gym every day. I ended up making a lot of friends through the gym.
Yeah.
So whether that might be, you might like to, maybe you play like some sort of sports, like soccer, like a league or something like that. It could be signing up for some sort of art class or volunteering at some organization. Find something that you just like to do, and then what'll happen is you'll naturally get to know people that are like-minded. You know, it could be through your church, it could be through your temple, whatever. You could take a cooking class. If you're doing something that you naturally like to do, like for me, I enjoyed group exercise classes. So then because I was there every day, you just get to know people. So there are ways to make friends, but I think to your point, the less thirsty you are about it.
Yeah, I guess
the more fruitful it'll be.
It's more fruitful. And I think you got into something too, so I agree with that. I think you should definitely, maybe these are things that everyone knows, like being more social. I think a lot of people are probably listening to this already have their friends or are working towards it. So I think another, to kind of like go to another part chapter is like, you know, how do you dictate your friends and who do you...
And like why should you? And why is it important?
And why is it important? Because like...
So why, when you talk about dictate, maybe you're talking about curating or curating your friendship circle. So why is it important, and what have you experienced?
Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people's friends are based on circumstance. So whatever your circumstance is, you probably have friends around that. So I'm also wary about that too. So I always tell people there's friends who are for, like I said, a season, right? And there's other friends like for a reason, right? So I think you should find friends like what you say on purpose, and what I say for a reason.
Yeah.
So it's like those are the friends I want to focus on right now.
So explain just so people are understanding what it means. So like I understand. So just explain the difference real quick
between purpose friend and
purpose.
Okay, so
like you know, convenience or situational versus
think about your middle school friends to your high school friends to your college friends till now. Right? There's probably a couple people that have been there forever and a lot of new people. Yeah. Right? So the people that have probably been there forever are probably your friends on purpose, your friends for a reason. The people who are sprinkled in and out doesn't mean you're not friends with them, doesn't mean you're not cool with them. Yeah. It's just because at this part of your life you were friends with them. So that's how I kind of explain it. And the difference even more is like the powerful in having friends who are on purpose and you both are fighting for the relationship, a lot of beautiful things come out of that. Right. Right. And it doesn't mean you have to live in the same city either. Yeah. It's not just about circumstance. There's friends that I have that don't, like my friend Mello, like he lives in Florida. Like anytime we see each other, we picking up where we left off. Right. So for me too is like, you know, those friends on purpose, those friends for a reason are the friends you want to curate and the friends you want to keep. 100%. Because like, they'll tell you when you're wrong. They'll tell you you're right. They'll support you. Right.
So let's just say today we're really focusing on the friends on purpose as opposed to your coworkers that you see every day, your neighbors that you might see every day, or the you know, like the moms you see at school pickup every day, or you might see somebody at the gym every day. Today we're talking about the friends. So Vince and I are a perfect example because we don't live in the same neighborhood. We're not the same age. We don't go to the same gym. We don't work in the same office. There's
no reason why me and Liz should be friends. Correct. Other than that, it's on purpose.
Right. It's 1,000% on purpose. So those are the types of friendships that we are talking about today.
Yeah, and if you don't have that, fight for them, try to get them, right? And whatever you're trying to accomplish, whatever you're trying to do with your life, however you view, right, it will dictate the kind of friends you need. Correct. Right? If you're a social butterfly like Liz and you need to be out, you probably want a couple of friends who are down for that so that you guys together can have fun and be social butterflies. Right. If you're more a homebody, introverted, you might want to find a friend that you can share a special hobby with or something like that. Right. But yeah, like focusing on the friends on purpose, right? I'm going to ask you, Liz, why do you prefer building a lot of those relationships? Because for you, I noticed that you have a lot of friends you've been friends with for a long time.
Sure. So I went to college in a different state than I grew up in. And I worked in the corporate world for Marriott International, opened the JW Marriott here. So I have many different groups of friends from high school, childhood, college, etc. I am very naturally, inherently like relational focused. So I will take the time to, comment on their photos on Facebook when they post an update about their job, or if they post a business success, or post a photo of they got engaged or married or had kids. I'm going to take the time, especially in today's social media world, even those small steps are going to help you maintain those connections, especially when you are halfway across the country. Wait, why are you laughing at me right now?
No, I'm just listening.
So I do tend to make the effort because I know I appreciate it. Like when I have different business wins or milestones or, you know, kids' birthdays, it's nice when you're able to, you know, maintain those connections. Now, in terms of like the real strong circle, I think what I found has been the best practice is, well, two things. I have two different, I guess, ways I want to talk about. Number one, there are a lot of things that I do that other people want to be a part of, but of course I could not ever have like necessarily 200 people a part of everything I do. So for example, I'm in a dinner club and there's only 5 couples, and that's something where a lot of people could, I think that's a good example of a practical takeaway that you could start tomorrow, and that'd be a great way for you to try to create your strong circle. So I'm a big believer that if you want to be a part of something, you should just start it. So for example, I'm in a podcast club. A lot of people want to be in that podcast club. Of course, we couldn't have 100 people. So I really want to empower other people to start a podcast club. Yeah. You know, maybe you want to get to know other creative online entrepreneurs. Start a monthly meetup. I'm just a really big fan of empowering people to take control of their reality as opposed to wanting people to just hand it to them. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. I agree with that too. And I think I base a lot of my core friends how my life looks like. So let's say it's just 5, just for the sake of 5. Probably 3 of my friends are very business heavy and 2 of them aren't. Because there's times where like 90% of the time I'm working. But there's times where I don't want to. So it's good to have friends that like don't care anything about what I do.
Right.
Or what I'm trying to do. Like that's the best feeling ever.
Yeah.
Because then you start realizing that like you're not that important.
100%.
Or your problems aren't the only problems in the world. And it's also great having in my other 3 friends that like to do both. So it's like cool to like balance my core friends off my life. And you know, I have like a crazy theory I think I've told you before. I don't know if I said on the podcast about the average of 5 and how we're all connected. But I really do believe that when you curate that group, like be smart about it because it's going to affect your outcome. Yeah. Right. If you're around a whole bunch of negative people all the time, well, you're going to have a negative outlook on life all the time.
Yeah. Well, who was just saying that you earn the average of the 5 people you spent? That's your salary. That was
who said that?
I forgot. But I've always heard that you are the average of the 5 people. But then they said your salary is the average. So regardless of whatever, there is a lot of truth to whoever you're spending the most time with. It's going to directly impact your life.
Exactly. And then I think what we both do really well too is also as we move up the quote unquote social ladder and get into new things, we make new friends. And like I think it's okay to plug and play.
What does that mean?
Like it goes back to like the friends on purpose and the reason the seasons. There might be a season in your life where you need a complete flip of friends so you can experience that, and then bring the friends that you want to the new part of your life. Right. Like there's a lot of people who might have a crazy past.
Plug and play. Look
right.
At your
and
fancy
like
terms.
A lot of those friends your past probably not ready to be friends with you right now because they lived so much in the past.
Interesting.
Right. Like people make jokes about people peaking in high school. There's a lot of high school friends I don't have anymore because like they kind of peaked in high school. And like that's their circle of expression and what they care about a lot. And like I don't care that much about it, so I don't want to be stuck in the past all the time. I also have friends who are super futuristic a lot. Yeah. So sometimes it's great to have friends who are in the present, right? You just got to think about that. Right. But like, for example, if I was so holding on to my friends, I don't think I would have space or allowance to become friends with you. Right. And vice versa. So I think what we should talk about also is like the beauty in bridging the gaps to make new friendships. Right. Like if you didn't come to, if Parker didn't message you and we hooked up, right? Then we wouldn't have been friends, right? Right. So like all that is like real. And I think that's the beauty in life too, is like being able to like, I truly believe, especially in business, especially in life, friendships make the difference. Yeah. Like 100%. I don't think a lot of people realize how much business gets done based off to someone like you or not.
I think about my jobs like are posted, they've already been filled because someone knows someone. Like it's 100%. So one thing you said that I want to add to is you talked about, different seasons, different people coming into your life. I actually think you and I became friends because we put something out into the universe, almost looking for each other. Like, and so there might be a time in your life when you, I think that what you look for, you get.
Yeah, 100%.
And so what you think about is your reality. What you talk about is your reality. So I set an intention to find people that vibrate at like a high level like I do, that are super positive and driven and ambitious. And I also took measures to get rid of people in my circle that weren't doing those things. And I think because I literally set that intention, which all comes, by the way, from Law of Attraction, the book, I essentially subconsciously set the intention to meet you.
Exactly. And then I think vice versa, the same for me. In the other way, I was going through a time where I was stopped being friends with a lot of people, right? And like a lot of it, I couldn't figure out why we weren't being friends anymore, because I wasn't the aggressor in it, right? Like I was probably more like reacting to it. So then that started showing me that like, oh wow, like a lot of these people I spend a lot of time with, and I always make jokes about this, but you gotta be careful who you actually call your friend. Right? And like a lot of these people I was around.
That word is overused.
It's very overused.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I think I definitely overused it.
And that's why I go back down to circumstances. Like because of the circumstance, we were friends. Outside of this world, we had nothing in common.
Well, that's the thing. You got to remember, like I always think about like if you didn't see them every day at school, at work, would you actually be friends? Right.
Yeah.
Would you make the time?
Exactly. And then so at that same moment, I was losing, quote unquote, a lot of friends, and then I was not open to have. So, and in a weird way too, I sent my intentions out to like have better friendships, and like
because if you weren't in that mindset, I probably would have come in the restaurant. You probably wouldn't have connected. Like nothing would have.
Yeah,
right.
It would just been like cool.
Think of how many opportunities people probably miss, and I really think that people that are looking to make stronger friendships, they aren't actually actively open to it.
Exactly.
And so what happens is, they might say they can't make friends or they can never make friends or they have so much trouble. But I actually think they're closed off to it. And so opportunities are missing them. You and I basically took it, like we didn't let the opportunity slide.
Exactly. And I know a lot of people listening to this, like, well, we reach out to you. Why are you not friends with us? And I feel like also you can't force being friends.
True.
Like you can't force it. So like when with super busy people.
That's true because like, we were not like looking for best friends.
Yeah, like you're busy enough. You know what I'm saying? Like we weren't looking, we weren't. True. It just kind of like again happened. And I always tell people like, yo, like Liz and I are actually friends. Like you have to understand that. Yeah. Because people are like, oh, I see what you guys doing. And,
right.
And we always had. I think you too.
People think it's more strategic than it is.
And it actually is. Like no, like you really think about the situation, but anyway, like we just end up being friends.
Yeah.
So like
it happened authentically. Organically.
So a lot of times too, also for people who are listening, you can't game somebody to be your friend. People try to game you all the time.
I don't know the hummus trick.
Well, the hummus is good. And Curated is good. I mean, food helps. But, like, it's funny because...
Pro tip, no.
You want to be my friend? You have to get... Liz knows these. Like, there's, like, 5 things I like.
The funny thing is, at that time, I did not.
I know.
I must have subconsciously known.
Right, well, that's why it's, like, authentic. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because people try to game me a lot of times, like, spend time or be my friend. And it's just like, listen, like, I'm sorry, bro.
Can't make fetch.
I'm not a cheap date. Or maybe I am. You just got to know what it is, though.
Right.
Right? Like... There's something about getting me coffee that will make me like want like it's just coffee.
Yeah.
But like and there's something about Eastern deli sandwiges.
But that's a good right.
Like right. And Liz got coffee, Eastern deli sandwiches, and hummus. And like here that's 3 out of 3, and we never had the conversation.
Right.
Right.
Isn't that
so
funny?
It's funny.
But none of that was like rocket science either.
Yeah.
Like thought he might want a coffee. Thought he might you were hungover that day, so I'm like, you probably want the Euro right now.
Exactly.
So little things like that is a good example of what I mean when I say that my active social life, I'm not in college anymore. It takes work because a lot of women say it's harder the older you get to make solid friends. Yeah. Or they might move to a new city and not know people. But what I'm just trying to make really clear is that if or like I'm not in a dinner club or I'm not in a podcast. Well, have you started one?
Yeah, exactly.
Or even on like a work side, I get invited to like blogger retreats and things like that. And I encourage people, well, if you don't get invited to blogger retreats or whatever it might be, start one.
Yeah.
Really, I really want to empower people to take initiative and take ownership for their reality. And today we're talking about friendships. Yeah. And I think that if you invest a little time and energy into it, you're gonna really anything you invest in, whatever you water grows. Yeah, exactly. So obviously, like you know, we've invested in watering our friendship, and now it's flourishing.
And now we have podcasts.
Right. Look at here.
I'm doing it for you guys. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like the biggest thing too. Like you have to water your friendships. And let's hop over to this other topic. I'm thinking about it now, like the average of your salary or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay, so you're 5.
Yeah, and I don't know if I said this on this podcast or not, but I'll just explain my theory. So they say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I believe, and I think I've said this before, but I believe like everyone's connected.
Yeah.
Like I have not walked past anybody and not felt something. Right? It could have been like cold, it could have been warmth, it could have been whatever. You feel something.
Yeah.
Right? Like or a weirdness. Or
you
type,
do.
right?
Like
you
think of the
do.
party of the night.
Like you feel something.
Yeah. The whole room, you could feel different things.
We're all connected. And I think this is where this theory gets really interesting. So when you think about your friends and the people you're spending your most time with, and you think about your reality, your perception, because your perception is your reality. If you're not happy with it, a lot of times, like people will say, and I now see why, like check your friends, right?
Oh yeah.
Like who are you spending the most time with? Because if you're around negative people that where you're not like, let's say someone wants to start a podcast club, but all 3 of her friends or 4 of his friends are like negative and they don't want to do it with new people. Well, then like now you're limiting yourself based on what your friends want, not what you want.
Right.
So then I think you should set your intentions for better friends. But my theory goes to this point where we're all connected and we're all every action that somebody does, there's a side effect to it, right?
Yeah.
So if you're around people who are super negative, right, and you're 5, that's gonna probably make you more pessimistic and negative. But you're also part of another person's 5.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
And
so
now
the ripple effect.
The
is
ripple
huge.
effect. Now you're bringing a negative energy into their 5, and then therefore.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Also, if you spread positivity and love and abundance, well, then you're getting those effects.
And this
as
is
well.
kind of what we talked about in the Debbie Downer podcast.
Exactly.
And this is a good example.
Exactly about with your friendships, like, you know, I'm setting my intention very high for where I don't want to be around negative people. I will literally walk out.
Yeah. Well, and I
know?
noticed, I don't know if this is more with women, I'm guessing it is, that if there's a friend and I realize that our main bonding is gossiping about someone or complaining about something, whether I've seen people will complain about mutual clients that they both had, or you know, you'll be in a group situation and like, oh my god, wasn't it awful working with XYZ? She was, and then that becomes the basis of their friendship. And same thing could be like, isn't Susie's sneakers the worst? And then every time they talk, they're just complaining about Susie's sneakers.
Yeah.
I really want to urge people to.
Yeah, don't spend your time doing
A,
that.
that's not a friendship. So that's also not a friendship.
No, it's not really a friendship.
So that's, gossip is almost like a cheap form of connection.
Yeah.
So people gossip because, and I get it, people intend gossip. For example, when you get caught up in gossip, it can be hard to get out of it because you're just trying to connect with the group and what they're talking about.
Exactly.
But gossip is a cheap form of friendship. And I really encourage you guys to raise above gossip. That should not be the crux of any. Think of how little we gossip about other people, Vince. And we talk a lot. Right.
Talk about ourselves a lot of times.
Like literally.
It seems selfish, but actually not.
But
right?
I would rather us be like talking about things we're trying to get better at personally
And
than
trying to
us
accomplish.
bonding over a mutual person we dislike. And trust me, there's people we probably mutually dislike. But I don't really want to waste my time talking about that because that
there's nothing we can do about it.
That what you water grows. So
Yeah.
if we spent our time talking about that issue would just get bigger.
Exactly.
So I really urge you to avoid having friends in your life where every time you talk, it's to complain or gossip.
And like, I agree with that too.
Do
Like,
guys do that? Is
I
that
mean,
a chick thing?
I mean, I wouldn't put it past guys. Like, there's definitely like dudes that probably talk bad about other dudes, and I think that's corny.
Yeah.
Right? Or like pocket watching, or there's
Right,
like a lot of language we say. To me, like, I don't really spend my time doing that. It is funny though. Like, so at the same time though, like dudes will, and I think women as well. If you're an achiever or you're a winner, like, and we know that you're trying to gain something, we do talk about you. Because like we do have conversations. There's people that will try to get to me and they'll try to get to you.
Yeah.
And like, all right, bro.
Yeah.
Like, we see the game here. Like, so in a sense like that, I think dudes do talk about it. In a sense like, yo, did you hear about it? Right? Maybe not as much as gossiping, but I wouldn't put it past anybody.
Yeah.
Like a lot of, and again, I'm really good at like not having those in my relationships.
Yeah.
Right? So like a lot of my guy friends, we don't really talk about.
Yeah, because you've created. Okay,
Right.
so another thing I wanted to talk about with regards to your 5, and this is a book I read years ago. I believe it's called The 5 Friends. I'll figure out the name and I'll
link in the show notes.
In the show notes. Essentially, this is super important. So you want to have a diverse circle of 5, but not only that, you need to remember that not every friend is going to be everything to you. So each friend has a purpose in your life, in your circle.
Yeah.
So you can't expect, like you might have a cheerleader, for example.
Yeah.
Well, you can't expect all the 5 to be your cheerleader.
Exactly.
So different friends serve different purposes in your life. So you might have a friend where you're just connecting over TV shows, sports, music. It's just purely entertainment.
Yeah.
Maybe your friendship is really more about bonding over pop culture or whatever your interests are. It could be maybe you've got kids the same age. You might be influencers on Instagram, and that's your connection. Other examples are you might have someone that challenges you to be better and to do better. And I'll find the show notes and list out the actual 5 types. It's like the 5 types, and the goal is to have one in each category.
Oh, wow.
But I think that the biggest takeaway I got from that is that you can't expect every friend to meet every need. That's not fair to that friend. And same thing with you to your friends. You can't be everything to all of them. But that's why it's super important to have a diverse circle of 5 versus having your 5 all be,
a certain type. And getting into that, me being honest and open here, like even for me too, like I feel like a lot of my friends, right? Great, by the way, all my friends. I love you, every single one of you guys. Not talking bad about any of you guys.
I wonder if our circle of 5 listens to our podcast.
Oh, they 100% do. Oh, you don't? You're not my friend anyway, right? I'm putting that kind of pressure on you guys. No, but I do think, and I was thinking about this the other day, that like a lot of the times I'm always on, and I'm always the friend that I get asked advice. I'm always the friend that gets issues. There's not a lot of people I can bring when I have issues too in my group. And it is rare, right? And in a funny way, though, as you explained that, what popped in my brain is that there are people that I talk to, but they do remind me that, like, if anyone's going to be able to handle it or figure it out, it is me. And sometimes it's not what you want, but it's what you need. And so, like, in a funny way, there's a lot of friends in my life that don't allow me to complain or have bad moments a lot of times. And not in a bad way, but they also remind me it's because I can come up with a solution. And it's because I kind of curated, like, a world where, like, no one really wants to hear that, to be honest.
Right.
Unless it's, like, serious.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you're complaining because you don't want
that
this to go your way,
sounds
bro.
like the type of friend you are to me. So I feel like you've curated that friendship.
Yeah. For you, right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's how you are as a friend. Like what you're saying,
Exactly. So I can relate to that whenever I'm going through something, I need to talk to somebody, and then like you like go call my father. I'm like, man, I don't feel better at all.
Right.
Like, you guys suck. But then there's like, in the second and like 5 minutes after,
so funny.
I'm like, oh wait, I actually need to hear that.
Yeah.
Right.
There's things I tell you that in the moment you probably don't want to hear, but I know there will be a time later in life you're gonna like dig into that bag of like Lizisms and you'll pull it out.
Anybody that knows me, I'm definitely a suction cup. So I'll be like, yeah, I'm definitely the person to be like, no, but like, yes. You know what I'm saying? You'll see me say it like next week. Like, I don't think I believe that.
Literally, then you use it like it was your advice.
Like, yo, it's my idea, 100%.
So my next question is going back to friendships, how have strong friendships helped you in your life, and why is it so important for you to have the right circle?
Well, your circumstances and your friendships and my core belief like makes who you are. So I was very fortunate to be surrounded by people who had good intentions and set out to do a lot of cool things. Their means of getting there may have not been always the right way, but like, I think for the most part, and I was strong enough and confident enough in myself to be able to jump and leave. I didn't fit in there anymore. But I think some of the beautiful friendships I've had, like, because me and Parker, like, he's like my brother. Like, so if he didn't reach out to you, we wouldn't be sitting here today.
Right.
So, like, you have to be thankful for friends like that.
Yeah.
Who are looking out and not being selfish and not always trying to take, but also trying to give.
Parker's the real deal, folks.
He is a real deal. Shout out to Parker.
Parker made it to birthday brunch when someone was sleeping.
Yeah, somebody did not wake up for birthday brunch.
No, Parker's the real deal.
But somebody made a cake. So
true.
Hey. Where's that cake, Parker? No, but seriously though, I think having strong friendships, because you spend so much time with them.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're also like, for me, I work with my family too. So like my family are also my friends.
Right.
So like in a weird way, for me, it's like we getting some stuff.
Yeah. Well,
right?
and you have a twin. Like
You
have a built-in.
So I always had a built-in best friend,
which I think is part of why you were never thirsty for friends.
It's like I have
Side
my
note.
sister. You know what I'm
Lucky
saying?
you were born with them.
Well, I feel a lot of you had siblings too. But like at the end of the day, like I always had a friend.
Well, I was never in school with any. We're so far apart.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
So I think for me, one thing that's been super, like the biggest gift I feel with having a strong circle is that there's times in life when, this is cheesy, but like you kind of lose yourself and your friends will remind you of who you are when you forget.
Exactly.
And I think we can all relate to different times, whether we like back down on something that we should have stood our ground on, or we second guess something, or we overthought something, or maybe beat ourselves up too hard on something. And I feel like your friends are almost like a mirror, and when you need a reminder of who you are, your friends are going to be the best mirror to remind you of who you really are.
That's powerful. And your friends not reminding who you are, probably not your friends.
No, cut them out of the circle. Yeah, I think circles are a time to be greedy. I know that like I don't like to be greedy. I like to be very generous, but
there's some things they're just non-negotiables.
Yeah,
I think your friends are one of them.
You're good at that.
Yeah, 100%. I don't like having friends like for no reason.
Yeah, to
be honest.
Yeah,
and like protecting my energy is my focus for 2020.
Ooh.
Because I'm so open and we can hit me up all the time. I have to be careful who I'm spending time with versus somebody else.
So how do you handle that? Because that can be hard, especially when you do want to encourage people to make new friends. But yeah, that is hard. I definitely relate to that.
I'm super intuitive, so like I just go what feels right. So and I know at this time, like right now for me, like I'm open to always make new friends, but there's a few friends that I really care about that I'm trying to cultivate the relationship with right now. And like I love seeing my friends win, and a lot of times I'm part of the win. Whether it's like a layup, a door opening, a key pass, whatever you want to call it, help my friends win. So I also take the responsibility in a weird way of my friends, like kind of like big brother vibes a lot of the times. Yeah. And I just can't help myself from doing it. So a lot of times I'm not at my capacity right now too. Yeah. I can only help so many of my friends.
Well, and you want to be, you're probably going to have more of an impact in life if you are the best, most ultimate version of Vince to the core
5 versus 100
versus a half-assed version to 100.
Exactly. So I'm trying.
And that's the thing. We're all humans, and that's what I'm actually reminding myself, because I feel really guilty when people want to meet up and talk and grab coffee, and I just literally wouldn't have a business if I was doing that all day. Yeah. So I feel really guilty though, not meeting up with everybody all the time. Exactly. Because I love and encourage that nature. Yeah. That's half the reason I started throwing parties, is because now it's like, let's all hang out. No one's left out. It's super inclusive. Exactly. But yeah, you're right. We're also human beings, and we're not perfect, and we really can't. I can't be the Liz that like you love to 1,000 people.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I wouldn't be able to. I don't have enough time to make that much hummus.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't bake cookies very often, so that's not going to be. Imagine if I had 12 Vinces asking me to bake cookies. Man,
it's a whole day.
Jokes aside, though, like I really couldn't. You can't do that.
No, you can't.
You can't do that on a big scale.
No, you can't. And I think like with things like the podcast and things like sharing on social media, there's a way to connect with a lot of people. Yeah. So I always tell people like, "Yo, connect with us here," because like, and I'm not trying to be weird, like, but it's like to be honest, like it's a lot. Yeah. And like I always tell people, you and me are still chasing whatever we're chasing. So it's not like we've quote unquote made it. Right. Right. Whatever that means for somebody. Right. Like someone like me who's type 3, who's super ambitious. Like,
you're never gonna make it.
I'm never gonna make it. Spoiler alert. But like, so I'm doing this forever. But like, so for me, it's like I have to like in my brain, in my strategy part of my brain, like, yo, does this make sense? But I also love people.
Yeah, and same.
So like, I'm not somebody that you can't talk to. Same. Matter of fact, like, and I have to be, and the reason I say protect my energy is because a lot of people that I care about that I'm also looking out for. You come to my restaurant. How many times you been to my restaurant and I'm talking to a random customer for 40 minutes?
Oh yeah, every time.
Like it's like, all right, I gotta chill out.
Or even like at the parties I throw. Or
like I just start talking to everybody. Yeah. And like I just miss it. I miss the whole thing. Yeah. I personally love connecting with people. Yeah. So, but also it could be draining, right? So think about like a water cup, and you're always pouring out.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what's
Who's filling your cup?
What's filling you up? So it's like if your circle's not whatever is not filling you up, then like you're spent, right?
Yeah.
So like you gotta.
You just reminded me of an important lesson I've learned with friends. Tell me your thoughts on this.
I'm ready.
I really think when I look at the most successful, most rewarding friendships that I've had over time, it's because it was a true give and take. So to your point about the cup. So for example, I made you hummus. Oh, you made me a cake.
Yeah.
It's our whole friendship is equal. We're both putting in the same amount. And I found in the past that the friendships where I was giving more than getting, and I'm sure there were other times when maybe they were giving more than I was giving them, or they were getting, whatever.
Yeah.
I messed that up. You get my point. It needs to be equal. And no matter, and you guys can both never make hummus or cookies. You don't need to be on like, we're kind of like over the top. But whatever level you're at, it needs to be equal. Like, for example, my husband, Rich, has friends at work. Like, they're not doing anything for each other ever. But they're a good friend, whatever. That's just they don't ever hang out outside of work, but they're friends.
Exactly.
But the key is that it's equal.
Yeah, whatever the exchange is. It could be, this person's really funny.
Yeah.
Right? And like
comedic relief is priceless.
Right? And then like, but now I help them out with X, Y, or Z. Like, it doesn't have to be like the equal whatever. Like, I agree with you.
It's not like it's different for everybody.
It's not you keeping score. And like, don't be friends with people for malicious reasons. So many people out there. But it is cool to like, I think you're right that it is like a give and take. And I think that's right for friendships.
That way you don't burn out.
Yeah, that's where you don't burn out. If you're always giving to a friend and you're spent, stop being friends with that person.
Right. Well, because you need to be...
Right now, stop being... Like, right now, text him right now, hey, I don't think we should be friends anymore. Or better yet... I gotta get my phone. Or better yet, hey, I think I'm too busy to hang out here 3 times a week.
This goes back to the boundaries, though, that we did talk a lot about in the Debbie Downers, but it might also just be a boundary with someone that isn't.
And also tell all the friends that you love, I love you so much, and you're the best friend ever.
Well, that is honestly... that, I think, though, is just as important.
Yeah.
That's all part of it.
That's probably more important.
It's the most important.
Than talking to the negative friend.
I'll check my text later, Vince, to see if I got one from you.
Yeah, probably not.
But that is the truth. I think that you should not take friendships for granted. And I think a lot of times where things get uneven is because one of the two started to take it for granted and became complacent and just stopped working on it. Friendships are a relationship.
Exactly.
And as someone that's been married almost 15 years, I can attest that long-term strong relationships do take consistent work, effort, energy, and I think affection, whether that's however you do that,
Exactly.
Obviously telling them that you care about them, thanking them for showing up, thanking them for being there for you when you were in a tough place.
Exactly.
How do you cultivate your friendships?
So like,
how do you water your friendship garden, Vince?
So like I always say, like, I'm the friend that is down for probably everything, always, whenever. I'm also the friend that you can always call. Yeah. I always will pick up unless I'm in a meeting, but I'll call you right back. Don't text me though, 'cause I might not text you back. But I'm also the friend that'll bail you out. Like, I'm the friend that's always there. So I think for me, I know I could cultivate my friendships by being that non-judge, let you be who you are, the supporting, the cheerleading friend, the one that's gonna help. That's me. I'm that friend. Yeah. Right. Like I know that. Yeah. So I think I cultivate a lot of my friendships because, like, if you ever need something. Yeah. So you show up. I show up. Right. I always come through with the come through. Right. I always say. Yeah. Like, you need me from somewhere, and like, if it's like, and a lot of my friends, like, and we haven't got to this conversation yet. Like, you can pull the friend card. Like, there's times where, like, my friend's like, yo, if I say I can't come somewhere, like, yo, you have with me, you can pull the friend card, and like, yo, I actually need you to, like, actually. Yeah. And I would drop whatever I'm doing, right? Because you call the friend card. There's been situations where I've done that for some of my friends. Really? And like, always, but I always tell them that they have that with me. Yeah. Like, and like,
so you're saying you've called the friend card with them, telling them you need them at things?
Yeah, I have done it too, and like, I think that's also cool when you have a friendships built in real foundations, not off circumstances. Yeah. Right, because then it's like you're not worried about your current, because you're like, well, this is very important to me too.
Okay, so that's so true. So for example, I think it's super important to support your friends and what they're doing. So whether that's buying their products, showing up at their events, going to their restaurant, whatever it might,
or just being, let's say they don't do anything, like just calling, hanging out,
texting them to ask how that whether they might have had something important with family, like how did that go with the in-laws? How was that party? However, check in. Yeah. And I think that is what you give is what you get.
Yes.
So your friendships, and honestly, everything in your life, your bank account, your house, your marriage, is a direct reflection of what you're putting out.
Exactly.
There.
And I have a funny thing about giving and getting. I think whatever you give, you get 20% less.
Less. I thought you were gonna say you give once, you get a bunch more.
So like
20. Okay.
And I think, and the reason why I do
what happens if you don't give?
Well, then you get nothing.
Yeah.
You're probably in the hole. So I think for a lot of people, it makes them want to give even more. I think there's like giving, and then there's like another threshold of giving.
Yeah.
And like I say that to some people, if you really are selfish, you'll give everything you have, right? Because you're like so you can get more.
Interesting.
Right? Versus them being so worried about what you're giving. So like, and I think that's a good way to live life, because it's like, and we're not measuring, right?
No.
And like what we're giving, right? Because like I think you and me both like giving. So like we're not really measuring like, I'm counting how much.
No.
But like it's more about like with that kind of rule of thumb, right? It makes me like want to give the right stuff versus than just right, because like, and it helps me like be okay with not receiving something like if I'm in the spot of wanting it, right? Like it kind of helps me have no expectation.
Yeah. Yeah, having no expectations is the secret to life.
Yeah.
So there right there is a big part.
I live my own. I have no expectations with anybody.
But I do think that it's important. I think that a lot of people, especially with social media, they sit back and they look online and they look at stories and they see all these different events and get-togethers and parties and groups going out or whatever it might be, and people end up having FOMO or whatever else. But I'm curious, like, did you go to your friend's event? Did you invite your friend to dinner? Did you initiate a lunch date? What have you done to foster those friendships? What you have done is a direct correlation of what you're receiving in your life. You can't sit back in the back row waiting for friendships just to arrive at your front door. Every friendship I have is a direct reflection of you. I mean, you come to all my events. I was the first to buy tickets to your dinner at Mad Cat. Like that's just how. And again, it wasn't because I felt obligated. It's just a matter of I'm gonna give to my friends how I want them to give to me. Treat others how you want to be treated. End of story.
Exactly.
Whatever. Like
yeah, I like that. And I was raised by people that gave so much. So I saw like
it was part of your
mom and dad would take the coat of their back and give it to you. So like,
well, it is easier when it's part of your culture.
Exactly.
Which we do come from those like tight knit, like, warm.
Just give.
Yeah.
Because like, you can get.
Yeah.
If you know how to get, you can give.
Yeah.
Always.
And that's an expression of like caring for people and showing, which is always more significant than telling.
Exactly.
So, all right.
Friendships.
Ready to wrap up on friendships episode?
Yes.
Any final thoughts on
final thoughts on friendships. I think everyone should have at least one friend. You don't need to have 100.
Yeah.
But at least have one quality friend. And I think life will get much more happier for you.
Yeah.
Or you'd be like me, Liz, and have 100 billion friends, but 5 really close ones.
Yeah. The Fab Five is the key. Make it diverse, make it high quality, and then cultivate it, nurture it, and don't be afraid to call it from time to time.
Yeah.
You got to drop a bag to get a bag.
Drop a bag to get a bag.
All right, that's a wrap on friendships. Peace.
Out.